Hello, Dave.
Hello, everyone.
I see we have audio.
And video.
Am I only one that didn't have a good time getting Zoom to work, or is it just me?
Mine worked perfectly.
Without incident. What happened, Chuck?
I had a lot of trouble trying to sign in here. I mean, it just blew me
I did
away a
too.
bit.
I don't know what the deal was, but I'm having internet troubles too. I'm on a backup internet right now. I just got back to the radio station and found out our primary internet is down. Luckily, wonderful. That's usually because somebody has dug up a fiber optic line somewhere. And I've got another computer that says it has a problem, and so I'm going to be in and out here. We have an event going on at the museum tonight too, on top of it, a LAN party. Some of you guys, I think that's really wonderful. A whole bunch of video gamers are sitting in our museum with. Some even brought their own chairs. I thought that was pretty weird, but I know they have video gaming chairs. I guess you feel everything that way when you blow up somebody. You know, I'm just an analog guy. I don't get it. But
Chuck, you're a little out of focus.
I'm out of focus.
You're out of
Yeah, I
focus.
am. I don't know why. It beats me. It looks out of focus on my screen too, but I have no idea why. There's no focus control on this camera, so um, it is what it is. I must be
you're
at low
just-
bit rates or something.
Maybe you're just out of focus. That's, you know.
Well, that may be it. I appear to be. I could shut my video off and turn it back on and see if it gets better.
Or Zoom has set your turn the soft focus up on you.
Well,
Wipe
Could
the
be.
Vaseline off the lens.
no, there's no Vaseline on the lens. At least I don't think so.
We know who you are and you look just fine.
Okay, well, I got color bars on at least. You can go set your monitor.
Hey, you're the first guy who's told him that.
I'm sorry, what was
He said you look just fine. I said he's the first guy who told you that.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Actually, Julian, you look out of focus too on mine. But
I
Well,
look
the
crystal
radio looks really
clear.
great, so it says RCA Victor on it. And I can read that.
Yeah, my little monitor picture up there shows me crystal clear though. Huh, amazing.
Well, you're kind of you look yellowish.
I noticed that earlier. Let me do something a little. Yeah,
Hey, now you're pinkish. So
I don't know.
who knows?
Easiest
It's a,
cure for jaundice, right?
it's a mystery. I mean, anything that has to do with the internet seems to be a mystery to me.
Now you're pink.
Amen to that, brother.
Yep. Yeah, he's pink. I'm going to turn my video off and turn it back on and see if that makes any difference. Nope.
Oh, you were in focus when he came on, and then it went out.
It then went out. Beats me.
Looks good to me.
We know who you are.
It's probably state of the art. And I'm going to be running back into another room to go. I have a computer that's being cranky, and it says that it's calling back to Microsoft to report the problem. And it's like, oh, swell. We'll restart your computer.
That'll get results.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it will. This morning, the same computer crapped out, and it came back with a message that said something about a full-page screen about Windows 10 support will end on October or something or other. It's like, good. If you will please stop bothering me, that would be really great. I mean, but it made things come to a screeching halt. I just love it when it does that.
Why don't we get started?
Good idea. I'll mute myself.
Welcome to the September meeting. Glad you all decided to join us. I want to start out by thanking the New Jersey Antique Radio Club for sponsoring this meeting, providing our Zoom feed. We really appreciate it. If I had to do it, it would be a mess. Tonight we've got a report from Mike Molnar of the Kutztown Radio Meet. But before we get to that, let's start out with the museum report. We have the deadline for getting tickets for the sweepstakes is coming up on October 8th. The way this works is they now require that you have, I guess, 10 days gap between the last ticket sale and when you have the drawing. So the drawing is the 18th, so that meant the last day for buying tickets is the 8th. So far, we've only sold $5,000 worth of tickets. We need to sell 8,000 in order to award the prizes. If we don't, there's a cash payout of 25% to the winners. Now, we will have to figure out how to divide that up among the first place and second place and third place winners, but hopefully we'll pass the $8,000. We have a big surge. We still have 12 days to go. And we usually have a big surge of buyers in the last week or so. Hopefully it'll happen this year. So anyone that wants to buy tickets, it's a great time now. There's a 50% bonus offer. So if you buy at a level of 50 tickets, you'll actually get an extra 25, which really increases your chances of winning. Next thing I want to mention is that the swap meet is the 18th. We hope to have a good turnout for it, and we also hope to have some muscle power turnout to help getting CRTs up on new shelving in the museum, which I'm going back to Columbus on the 4th. Finally, everything has fallen into place for doing that. And that gives me 2 full weeks to get the shelves done, and I have a friend who's going to help me. So we should be able to get the shelving done, and then at the swap meet, hopefully we can get all the tubes off the warehouse floor up into storage. The other thing that's going to happen at the swap meet is that we are going to have an auction, both live and online, of at least two items. We have two prizes that have never been claimed from past years. One of them is a color tell, and the other is that predict pedestal that was in working, restored and working, that was in last year's auction. I mean sweepstakes. So both of those will be auctioned. We may have a couple more things in that auction, but it's going to be limited just to two or three, or maybe four high-end items. You will be able to bid remotely. You don't have to be at the swap meet to bid, but there will be a $35 fee for bidding. All that'll be on the website and publicized in emails and so forth, well in advance of the sweepstakes. The other thing I want to report is, I think I mentioned last time we were approached by somebody that wanted to do a farmer's market Tuesday afternoon at the museum, and we made arrangements to do that. The museum gets some income from it. And we hoped it would result in people coming to the museum, but that didn't happen. We were open for 2 weeks, and not a single person came to the museum. So obviously the farmers market crowd and the museum crowd are a little different. So we're no longer going to pay somebody to sit there to be open for the next 4 or 5 Tuesdays. But as I say, we do get some income from it, which is really nice. That's all I have on the swap meet. And I hope you could show up. It would be nice if you could. And as I say, we'll post information about the auction. And that's it. Dave, you got something?
Yeah, does the city of Hilliard look favorably on this farmers market thing?
Oh boy. The answer is yes. Despite the fact that the guy that ran it has been a jerk. His first approach was, screw the city of Hilliard, I'm going to do what I want to. I said, no, you're not. You will not use the museum unless you're on good terms with the city. And he moaned and groaned about the fact that the city was requiring a permit, which cost nothing for him to do this. And the other thing that the city did was pointed out that the parking spaces to the south of the warehouse area are actually in a utility easement, and you can't set up tents there for the swap meet. I mean, for the farmers market. And so that reduced his number of spaces from about 25 down to 18. He begrudgingly accepted that, and the city's happy. He's a jerk, but we're living with it, and he is paying us. So,
if the city's happy with this thing and Tuesday is not working, could the city jump in to help and maybe move it to a Friday where we could?
They want to do Tuesday because they've done Tuesdays forever at another location, and their plan is to move to the McCoy Center, which is right down the street from us, through the winter and have the farmers market in the McCoy Center on Tuesday afternoons, and then next spring come back with a bigger farmers market that includes the city property to the north of us. So the idea is to make it into something big. We'll see if that actually happens.
No,
but it's not a bad thing for the museum, and the city is now happy with the guy.
No, anything we can do to make the city happy and help us.
No, they're perfectly happy, and I served as the intermediary to make this guy comply with what the city wanted to do. So the city recognizes that. They see that I was the one that made the guy comply, and so we're on really good terms with the city. As you know, we were in the past, and we signed this agreement for parking lot maintenance a while back that they're very happy with because it gives them additional parking during the week that they really need for stuff they've got going on. That's about all I've got. Membership, we've gained a couple new people. I think we're up to 252 now. December 1st, we'll start soliciting for next year's membership. The board has decided to raise the membership fee from $35 to $50. We've never raised it in the whole time we've had memberships. And we'll see how that goes. I think it'll be fine. I think it'll bring in some additional revenue. The board also decided to increase the what we're charging for picture tubes that we sell. We were charging $50 for used ones and 75 for new ones, and the board felt that this was crazy low based on what tubes are selling for on the internet. So used tubes are now 85 and new ones are now 125. And I think that's going to be fine. We're still one of the issues with selling picture tubes was shipping costs, and Matthew DeSaro at the board meeting mentioned this company called Pirate Shipping or something like that.
Pirate ship.
Pirate Ship. And so I use them, and they, my God, it's half the price. And they use UPS ground, but the price is half what UPS wants. So it makes it a lot more practical to ship tubes, especially the color tubes that were, through the roof in terms of shipping costs. And this makes them palatable. So I think that should help us in selling tubes. So that's all I've got of the museum report. Anybody have any questions?
No question, but I'll see you on the 18th. I'll be there.
Fantastic. Glad to have you. Well, why don't we pause now and let if there's anybody who is new to the meeting that would like to introduce themselves. I'd like to hear from you. Well, I guess not.
Silence is deafening.
That's fine. Okay, let's move on to the stuff I'm going to feature. Today I'm going to feature a few of our advertising items. So Larry's going to be moving all around the museum. Now, this is by far not everything we've got, but these are some of the more interesting things that have popped up over the years that people have donated or loaned to the museum. Those of you who have been to the museum may recognize some of the items. Those of you who haven't, we have some pretty neat stuff. So can we? No, we got Larry hooked up. First thing I want. This is as you walk in the door. There's a nice Crosley sign, and all this stuff was donated with a couple of over the many years we've been in business. The next thing is if Larry can move into, everybody I think knows about this thing, if Larry could move into the pre-war room. And you'll see our famous nipper. This is Dave Arlen's, and he's graciously loaned it to the museum. The thing is a monster, and it's a highlight of people coming to see the museum. It's the only room we've got that's really big enough for him. Let's move on to the next item. Let's go into the post-war room in the first row. And we'll start down with this Dumont dealer display sign, which is, I think it's just really attractive. This is from the late 40s, and it was in a dealer in West Virginia, and the guy donated to us. And then right across from it is the RCA dealer display. Same sort of thing. And I can't remember where this came from, what this was donated, but this is, you know, in a dealer, and it's again from the late 40s, so it probably had a 630 sitting in it. And then while we're in this room, we have a nice RCA clock.
Steve,
Yeah,
I'm not sure about the RCA clock unless we were talking about this one, this right here.
yeah. That's the one we're talking about.
Okay, just one. Okay, great. Thank you.
And then back on the wall on the other end of this aisle, we've got several signs. Start at the far end, Larry, going down to past the Philco sign. Here's a RCA electron tube authorized dealer sign. And then a Philco sign. Now this is a little later vintage. This is not 40s. And then we have one next to it. What's the one next to it? I can't remember. Motorola. Again, this is a little later vintage. We just hung them on the wall wherever we had space. Okay, let's go to the next row. And we have at the far end, we have a Dumont clock and a Dumont neon sign. Not working. We have 3 neon signs that need to be repaired, and Dave Arland gave me the name of a guy that can do it. It's the neon itself that's the problem, not the transformer. And I hope to get them all 3 of them working again. Now, also in this room, we have a sort of a neat Admiral item. Well, let's do the Arvin share first. This is on loan from Jeff Bourne, one of our board members, an Arvin television chair. I don't know if the dealers gave them away with TV sets or what.
No, they were normally given for the showrooms to be in at just advertising. There'd be no reason to give them away with a TV set. But the same thing with RCA. They made these for dealer showrooms and such.
I gotcha. Okay.
And that was so you could sit around and watch the TV while sitting in the chair.
It was it was a selling point there to make them sit down, be comfortable, and watch our TV set.
Right. Okay, the other thing in this area is the oh, you just passed that months. Go back to the month sign for the heck of it. Here's a nice month sign that somebody donated. And then right next to the go ahead.
I said it's definitely incomparable or incomparable. I mean, there's nothing like
an understatement, right?
Yeah, really. I mean, let's. I worked at a TV shop when I was in high school, and my boss said, "Yeah, months. That's how long it lasts. A couple of months."
Then right across from that, we have this neat Admiral, cardboard Admiral display.
Looks like the real thing.
Yeah. Okay, let's go into the color row next. We got a bunch of signs in there. You can start anywhere you want, Larry. Oh yeah, okay. Over here we've got an Admiral color TV sign with a clock. And then next to it we got a Philco sign. And then an RCA sign that has flashing bulbs in it when it's working. And there's a Zenith Christmas display. We have a bunch of those that Bob Dobush found that, and we put this one on display. It's motorized, and before the motor quit working, this shade would go up and down, and there's a light in the back. Since the motor died, so we haven't obviously not going to try to fix it. Zenith Color TV. And then here's a Zenith Neon that we want to get repaired that used to work. And then finally an RCA color TV that also used to work. And Larry, there's one more thing in here. Oh, there's a Westinghouse next to it. And go down to where the Motorola sets are at the end, Larry, and show that package of sales material. This is a package of advertising stuff that dealers were given to give out to customers. A whole bunch of stuff.
Those were the handouts. The other one was a cut sheet for the dealer's book.
Right. Yeah. There's the box that came in. Well, that's all I'm going to show. Anybody have any comments, questions?
I know mainly you were focused on signage, but since you showed that dealer literature, what about the Predicta periscope that's next to the Tandem? That was kind of
yeah. Let's go back into the next row over where the Predicta. You talking about the
the Safari periscope.
The little go to the Safari. Larry, the Safari on the end. Yeah, go down to the little cardboard thing, the bottom underneath that. There you go.
You could go to the Philco dealer and buy one for $0.25. So I've got a copy of an ad. I'll have to send it to you, Steve. Maybe we can print it and hang it up there. But it was advertising the Predicta holiday for $1.99 or whatever. But at the bottom, there's a little bar that says, "Hey kids, bring your parents into your local Philco dealer and get this Safari Periscope TV for $0.25." So,
yeah, I'd love to have that.
All right, I'll send it to you. I've got a digital copy.
Okay. Any other comments, or do we pan by anything that anybody wants to see?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
On the in the 70s, I had a Zenith franchise for a few years. And the one thing that they did that was nice, most of the other things they did weren't very nice, but they did come and do window decorations for dealers. So I had an old-fashioned kind of store in an old downtown where, as you walk to the store door, there are display windows on your left and right, like you might imagine a jewelry store or something having. And they would come and they would take one side and they would decorate it for seasonally. So I would have those Christmas displays, and then they would come after Christmas because they didn't want it to look dated, and they would change it over for spring or for football time. And they probably did that, I think, about 4 times a year. And but But as I recall, I don't know how you guys got some of those because they didn't want you keeping the old stuff up. They usually took everything away so that you wouldn't leave old displays up. You know, Christmas in July or something like that wouldn't look like you're a very active dealer. But anyway, I just wanted to contribute that.
Nice. Christmas Zenith Christmas display and about 10 others came from a defunct Zenith dealer in a town just south of here, Canal Winchester, and they had a whole stock of all kinds of stuff in there, and we picked that up and some CRTs. Sort of a sad side story. They had a bunch of, I guess, 80s Zenith color sets that were new in the box. And some guy thought he was going to get rich by buying them and putting them on eBay and at exorbitant prices. And I don't think he sold one. We decided not to take them because we couldn't see any possible use for them, but somebody did.
I didn't turn down those Philco Predictas that I had.
Well, that's a little different. That's a little different. Okay, any other comments?
Steve, when you were talking, a few names came across the bottom, like they are new to the Zoom meeting, and maybe they want to take another chance to say who they are.
Yeah, love to hear from you.
I did see the names come up.
Yep.
Oh, no mic.
Oh, Craig says he has no mic.
Oh.
This is Ed Williams. I live in Florida. I'm from the Columbus, Ohio area. I visited the facility up there a number of times. It's absolutely amazing what you have, and I really appreciate attending these meetings that you have monthly.
Well, thank you, Ed. I'm glad you enjoyed the museum. I'm glad you're here tonight, too. Well, why don't we move on to Mike Molnar's report.
Okay, I'm going to try to share a screen here and just someone tell me if it comes up right. Screen one. Are you seeing a bunch of cars parked?
You got it.
Okay.
There we got it. Yeah.
So you always hear talk about Kutztown. It's Kutztown meet. Sometimes it'll be Renninger's meet. It's the the Delaware Valley Historical Radio Society's meet, and Kutztown is the city it's located in, and Renninger's is the big flea market that it's held at. And it's been going on. I should have looked up the exact number of years, but it's in the 25 plus years, I believe. And it was started because a few of the radio collectors that would attend other kinds of meets, like the Antique Wireless Association, they just didn't want it to be so structured. They were the guys who would hang around outside by their cars the whole few days. And they just wanted to meet people that way, not attend different presentations and things. So they got this started, and it caught on like wildfire, and it really took away from other club meets like the Antique Wireless. And when people would say, well, I'm in North Carolina, do I want to drive all the way to Rochester or stop about halfway up in Kutztown? So it's really grown. And this picture I took while I was in line, it's the opening for dealers to go in was at 8 o'clock. And you can see everybody is parked outside waiting for the gate to open. So if you look all the way to the left, I'm in about row 6 or 7. And I got there at 10 minutes to 8. So some of them actually camped out in their cars to get in early. And so at 8 o'clock, they all opened up and everybody filed in. this is during the setup time, so a lot of it's under pavilions. So it's the one time it technically happened, but nobody really got there was during a hurricane. So they were still protected from rain coming straight down, but the rain was coming sideways that day, so it never really got going. The two pavilions start to fill up quick. These are more people just walking around shopping. I did see a number of TVs this year, and within a few hours, it seemed like they all sold out. The one guy had 4 or 5 sets. I bought a Stromberg Carlson, I think maybe about a 16-inch portable with like a leatherette case, and from the 50s. And then next time I went past his booth, he had no TVs left. Then I saw these 2 vagabonds that were wandering around. On the left is my co-editor, Robert Ring, and that's I forget who that guy is who runs the Zoom meetings over there. But he had his good hat on for the event. The next morning, so this ran Friday and Saturday. This is a view as I was coming in. So you could see that's the first pavilion. Give you an idea of how big it is. And a little before the official opening time, it was already pretty full. And that's more as it was filling in on Saturday morning. They also on Saturdays, they have an auction of anything people don't sell or want to rather see auctioned and stand around their booth. They can bring it in for the auctioneer. And I don't think they do it anymore, but they used to have a bonfire one of the nights for people to bring console radios that they felt were not going anywhere. What's that?
There was a bonfire.
There was a time. Okay. I didn't catch that. No one told me about that one. So anyway, that's that's pretty much what it is. It's Renninger's Flea Market. There's a big indoor area with antiques, people selling out of their booths. They have other events during the year. There's a railroad train collectors clubs do these kind of things too, and a few others. One even for I believe for pot dealers that I heard about for one year. And there's part of the building inside that has delis, a lot of Pennsylvania Dutch food. There's some lunch counters. There's people selling plants and all kinds of things, and that's there every week. I think this weekend was their antique extravaganza, where it's not as big as it used to be, but antique dealers that would roam the East Coast, going from big flea markets, then they buy and then they resell at the next flea market, going up and down the coast all the way to the other Renningers down in Florida. So that's what it's all about, and it's certainly worth a ride. There are people from the Carolinas came up. There's people from Connecticut, New Hampshire, and all that come down. Bob Dobush is usually there. He instead this year though he went to his high school reunion, I think it was. And but it's a big event. And yeah, there's some more on the Saturday part of it. So you could actually back your car right up to your booth. The only one, if you register late, you end up getting a center table and you have to haul your things in. And Steve, if there's a couple minutes, I'd like to, like the other meeting, I came up with a few pictures I'd like to share with people.
Go for it. We've got all night.
Okay. This, I don't know if anyone's ever seen this Farnsworth television. And what makes me kind of wonder about it is it's actually from an operator's manual. And I've certainly seen the other Farnsworth sets, but does anyone know if this one actually is held by any collectors or museums?
Yeah, I've seen two of them in California at the Northern California Radio Historical Society. They were brought in for show and tell.
With that curved front like that too, huh?
Yeah, and the speaker on top, and it was blonde. One was blonde and one was this color.
Okay. It's good.
Just-
I was curious as to whether, some things are proposed but never really go on the market. But when I saw it was an operator's guide, I thought maybe it was. The other pictures I have is something I've never seen before, and it's the television demonstration unit from RCA early on with an iconoscope camera and what they called their monitor. It's like in a modified TRK-12 kind of design, and apparently it was their demonstration unit, model 510A. And I did find even some literature about, its layout and the controls and everything else. And I never knew any of these existed. And the funny part about it, this is some of the early TV stations, when people would come in to see what television was all about, their lobby would be lined with several of these, and people could just stand around and watch whatever they had going on. And for the poor camera operator who had to work his iconoscope camera with no viewfinder, they actually would park one of these next to him, and he'd have to position the camera and look to his side to actually see what he was putting out there. So again, that's another piece that I'd never seen before. And I don't know, and you can see it's kind of TRK 12-ish inside. You can see behind the screen there. So I don't know if any of those still exist anyplace.
I have a section. Go ahead.
I have something to offer here. My sister, Lynette Williams, actually participated in one of those demonstrations at the Morehouse Martin's department store in Columbus, Ohio. And this is a certificate that they gave her saying that she had been televised by the RCA demonstration system.
Cool.
Is that dated? Ed, your mic.
July 16 through 19, and I believe it was 1946. Might have been 1947.
We have quite a bit of that about that demonstration on our website. If you do a search there, they went all over the country.
Yes.
I wasn't aware that it was as late as that. They must have done it after the war too, because that setup with the TRK-12 was they used before the war to go around the country.
Yeah, and I guess after the war would have been an image orthicon camera.
I don't know.
Well, the image on the certificate clearly shows it as being an iconoscope.
Okay.
And Mike, if you look on our website, we have the prototype for that Farnsworth set in our collection. It's a Farnsworth GV 260 prototype. It's the same sloped cabinet.
Okay.
And it has an opening in the side for changing the tuner tubes. I'm not sure why they would do that. Maybe they were just experimenting with different tubes. But and the other interesting thing about that is that Farnsworth sold those cabinets, surplus cabinets, to other manufacturers who put their own sets in them. And we have one in our collection, the same sort of deal with we're using that cabinet with a different chassis in it.
Okay. Glad for the information. Thanks a lot.
And I appreciate anything you have on the demonstration. To send it on over. We'll add it to our pages.
Will do.
I appreciate it.
I'm going to turn off the sharing now, I guess.
The huge amount of buttons on the front was always amusing, because usually most manufacturers put a lot of those controls on the back of the chassis. And here,
Right.
you got linearity and all kinds of width and things on the front. Why he did that, I don't know.
Stephen and Mike, if I can jump in here with a little bit of help on Kutztown. as
Sure.
a past president of the club, and I run the buy it now table at that thing. There's two things I think the club needs to explain. We used to open on Thursdays for dealers only. And people would come in, set up their tables on Thursdays. And what we discovered, and I'm not sure who figured it out, Renegers or ourselves, was that table sellers would come in, rent a table, and never show up with anything on their table. They would come in to buy, clearing out all the good stuff and going home. That's why we had to stop the Thursday thing. That's why it's Friday morning. And, we apologize for that, but people were taking advantage of things, and we want to keep a level playing field for everybody to buy and sell. So that's that.
Well, there is another statement I heard that the flea market itself pays for insurance by the day, and they thought they would generate the same amount of money with one less day, and that was to their benefit then too.
Yeah, I've heard that also, and probably and for anybody that's running a club or trying to run a flea market, the business model of this thing is spectacular. If you're a local club and you've got to rent Holiday Inn parking lot and pay that, or that Kiwanis Hall or something like that, this thing is genius, and I think it's how we got to be the size we are. Renegers takes care of all of the tables. They do everything. They do the reservations, they do the labels, they do the little labels on the, whatever. They take care of that. The club gets a central table in the second pavilion. And that's where the club makes its money, selling tubes, raffle radios, T-shirts, John Hagman's calendars, the buy it now table. That's our central moneymaker. The buy it now is a spectacular thing for us. It just works great. But the separation between the two, if you can find indoor flea market near you, get them, grab them, and then set up your little central table. We've been doing it now 25 years at this place, and boy, has it worked. And we thank all of you that show up, and help out our club, fill the pavilion. We're pushing to, now this year is a little odd because we had the Jewish holidays, so we had a lot of empty tables because of that. And we apologize, we need to set a date, and every couple of years we hit into the Jewish holidays. And, this year was a little slower than others, but that's the deal. So come on down to Kutztown. It is a wonderful place, and you will see stuff there for sale you ain't gonna see anywhere else.
I agree with that. One thing I did notice about that Thursday thing is that Friday morning at 8 o'clock when they let us in, Friday was a pretty good day. But when Saturday came along, Saturday morning, I noticed about at least a 20% vacancy rate from the yesterday, a Friday there. So a lot of people didn't even bother to come back on Saturday. And then Saturday, somewhere around 11:30, 12 o'clock, it started thinning out till everybody was packing up and leaving. That was about it.
No, Julian, yep, you were exactly right. That was with the old Thursday format. once we went to the Friday, Saturday format, we found out that people are staying around on Saturday. We used to give away our raffle radio at high noon. We pushed that back to 1 or 1:30 or so, and it's working. And we really had no pushback on eliminating Thursday. Friday morning is it's kind of a stampede, but it's not the end of the world. And the public that gets to come in on Friday also gets to look too. And we rely, we're not just a bunch of buyers and sellers amongst ourselves. We rely on the public to come in and learn about our hobby. 95% of that show is radio. 5% is TV, but so what? It's all for the good.
I thought it was a very successful meet there, though. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and all of our old friends there and stuff. And there was a lot of good stuff there this time there. And but anyway, I found what I wanted to do and sold some stuff, like everybody else. But I thought you did a real good job with that swap table there, the donation table. I had a lot of fun with that one there.
Oh, we've been playing with that for about 10 years now. It started out as like 2 little folding tables outside of somebody's stall, and it's just turned into this huge thing. And it's good. You find an old Gruno or something, a chassis, and you need one little part out of it. There it is. Give me $4. I'll take it. It's yours. It's going home. It's going to have a good home.
You had a lot of quality merchandise there considering on your table there. And I bought, those clocks there for a friend of mine that collects clocks. But I noticed a lot of people just donated some really neat stuff there. And the prices you asked were just wonderful.
Yeah, we move it along, or just move it. We did a thing on Saturday towards noon where it becomes everything's $1, and then it becomes everything's free. We moved that back to Friday late afternoon before the auction, before everybody left the building to go up to the auction. And we did the same thing. Everything's $1. And we got rid of a bunch of stuff. People donated to us. We thank you for that. And it goes home to a good home, a good project, and it clears out our table because we don't need all that stuff hanging over from Friday into Saturday. That's just too much stuff to get rid of on Saturday. So it's a 2-part deal now. And it worked. It flat out worked. And we made a comedy show out of the thing too. That's another story.
That was a lot of fun though.
Perfect. Come on down. Everything's $1. 10 thin dimes. Come on. Give me $1.
Sometimes I've been accused of making Jack Benny look like a multimillionaire there. Talking about being cheap, But yeah, I was surprised at some of the quality of what people did donate with you there. That was surprising.
Now, thanks to all of you, and thanks to Mike for your little review of our effort here, and look forward to seeing you all in the spring.
I think I'll go for 26 years in a row next time.
Well, thank you, Mike. We can move on to open discussion now. Anybody have any topics they want to talk about it? Let's go for it.
Yeah, Steve, I had something I wanted to bring up. Is it okay if I share my screen here?
Of course.
Okay. We're trying to figure out what Okay, I see how this works now. Okay. Sorry, I'm a little Zoom deficient here but first of all, just touch back on what we were talking about earlier. This is that ad I was talking about, Steve.
Fantastic.
At the bottom, where they advertise the Periscope set. So just so everyone can see it here. But the main thing I wanted to bring up was kind of putting out a plea to the membership here. I was contacted through a friend in a different club I belong to that this guy works for the Henry Ford Museum. He's one of the curators, and they have acquired in Greenfield Village the Jackson House. They came from, I believe it was in Alabama, and that's where Martin Luther King used it for kind of a base of operations for the civil rights movement. So they're looking to outfit the house with the period correct furnishings. And this is a picture of the living room. And there's a General Electric TV set that they would like to try to find, or at least find a similar 1964 vintage set. They already have the correct TV stand that this would go on. So I was thinking that might be the harder part of it, but they've got it. It's just a close-up zoom in of the set like they're looking for. But here's an ad that they sent from roughly that vintage with some other contemporary sets. And I think they also, picture from a Sam's. It's not quite like the one that's in the picture, but it's similar. So the house is due to open to the public on June 9th next summer. As far as I know, they're still looking for a set. I haven't heard back from the curator that, hey, call off the search, we found one. But I just wanted to throw this out here. If anyone has a set similar to this, it doesn't have to work. It's just going to be for static display. Let us know. But I figured more eyes that are searching, the better the chance that they might find it. So that's all I had. But like I said, wanted to bring that up to the group.
Thanks, Dan.
Yep. Well, thank you guys. Everyone's so quiet.
Well, I can add a story about Kutztown. Well, there's a long version and a short version, so we don't want to go till midnight. But the met a young guy down there who was looking for a table to put his reel-to-reel tape recorder on. He was looking to find a piece of furniture, and we both saw a piece of furniture at about the same time, and I went and kind of had my hand on it, and then he come over and said, no, I was looking for that. I need to get that. And I said, well, I was literally just going to get it. So what's the deal? And so he told me about how he needed to just have to make something into a table for his new reel-to-reel tape deck that he had bought there. And was a relatively young kid, and his dad was there with him, and I guess his dad was trying to give him a life lesson there or whatever. And he said, "Well, whoever got their hand on it first, that's who got it." But I explained to him that it wasn't just an ugly piece of furniture, that it was actually a base for a transcription turntable, at which he didn't know what that meant. When I told him all about how it was a base for a transcription turntable and what that was, what that meant, the radio station equipment. He said, "Oh, well, I couldn't take something like that and, just butcher it and turn it up into a table." And anyway, but he said, it's a real heavy tape deck. I got to find a real sturdy base for it, because it's got the two reels, like you see, but it's also got a third reel in the middle. It's got like a drum in there, and it says video. And my jaw dropped, because I realized what he had. He took me over to see it. He had just picked it up for, I don't know, I think $100, the most expensive thing he'd ever bought in his life. And he had a Rheem Roberts combination 1/4-inch reel-to-reel audio tape recorder and player, and the 1/4-inch video recorder and player, which I don't know about anybody else on the call. I had heard about them, but I've certainly never seen one. And I told him I might have tackled him and thrown him to the ground if I had seen that at the same time that he did. But I told him he may never get that lucky again. That was certainly a unicorn. So it was just kind of interesting being able to see that and play with it. That was a really, really obscure piece of video equipment, at least as far as I'm concerned. So that was kind of fun, and we had a good time, and they all moved together on the bench again, and everybody was happy and had a lot of fun. So that's my sound story.
Akai was the leading name in 1/4-inch videotape, portable stuff, and they had some stand-up decks too. And Rheem was another name in the business, but I'm not sure the connection between the two.
I don't know, because Rheem is obviously better known for their water heaters, not their video decks. So there was some corporate back and forth there somehow. But there was Rheem Califon for the record players, and seems like they had their fingers in everywhere. It's a nice looking deck. It was obviously a Roberts deck, and it got the Rheem brand on it too. But the fact that it recorded and played really, really crappy looking black and white video on a 1/4-inch tape in whatever it was, 1969, for the it was their entry. They were going to kick off the home video revolution with this machine, with the equivalent of $9,000 it costs in today's dollars.
There you're looking at roughly 1973, 74 entry for any of these things. And out in my hometown in Illinois, TV station up the road actually bought one of the Akai color units and was putting it on the air, and probably got about 500 FCC pink tickets for blanking error problems with that thing. And I actually had a complete color unit. I gave it to our good little friend at the museum, Charlie. Charlie did a presentation at the last convention on his Akai camera. I gave him a whole complete camera, 1/4-inch, not in good condition, but go for it, Charlie. Have fun. Knock yourself out. I still have a black and white unit here I'm playing. We'll figure that out later.
I guess that would be an interesting goal for the museum in the future, is the very first Betamax that was released, I think, in 1975. And it's a console television. It's a Sony Trinitron 19-inch set, I think, with a Betamax built into the side and a big console unit. And it probably weighs a ton. And I think it costs like $2,000 or something like that in the year. So just multiply, probably $10,000, something like that in today's dollars. But I remember seeing the advertisement for it in the newspaper when it was new and never forgot it. And then later I saw a photograph of one, but I don't know how many of them were made, but that was Sony's introduction of the Betamax. It was a console unit before they came out with the big, heavy tabletop top loading set that was related to it.
I remember about 1980 or 81, Magnavox used to be in our backyard down here from up there in Greenville. And I think it was 1980. They put on a big splash at Westtown Mall. All the corridors in Westtown Mall were filled with Magnavox and Philips products there. One in particular, if you remember that Matsushita piano key VHS machine there, one, it was marketed under everybody. I mean, RCA sold probably more of them, GE, Magnavox, you name it. They used that same Matsushita deck there. Well, I remember walking through the corridor there. They had one on display there, and it had a plexiglass case on it. And I thought that was the neatest thing. I said, boy, I'd sure like to have that. Well, I know several engineers that work there. Joe Zonin was the chief engineer of deflection up there. And one day we were out driving around and I happened to mention that. And he says, I have that unit. I said, you do? You know, this is like almost 30 years later, something like that. And I said, well, I'd like to have that. He says, well, if I can find it, he says, it belongs to my wife, but I'll give it to you. Took him about 2 years, but anyway, I've got it. And I thought, you know, that was a display. It has no date or anything on it, but it has a plexiglass clear that you can see how it works and everything. And it's a working unit. And I have that in my display of VHS machines there. But, you know, it's kind of neat. Also, I remember that Sony there. I had a chance to buy one of those one time, but if I remember, I don't think I had room for it, and it weighed a ton. And that was a big deal back then that they introduced.
I heard about one that was made earlier than the Sony, and it was a Sears set that you would rent a cassette with a movie on it. It wasn't designed for recording off of television, though. It just played video cassettes, and I think Sears marketed it. It was fairly early, and I don't know anything more, whether it was a 1-inch cassette player or a 3/4-inch, might be more likely, but you couldn't rewind it. So once you started watching your movie, you had to finish the movie. You couldn't rewind it, then you return the cassette to the store.
Yeah, that was the Cartravision system, and Sears sold those. Chuck Conrad has a console version that's about 6 feet, 7 feet tall. It's very impressive.
Frightening.
Yeah, it's frightening. But they actually were pretty decent recorder players, decently organized, but quirky.
Was it?
I would say.
And it was a color.
It was color, yes. It was
Okay.
a skip frame, I think.
Yeah, when I worked at Motorola, we looked at the Cartravision and ended up not buying it, but the Cartravision was a company was formed by a bunch of engineers who had some connection with NASA, I think, and they brought the up-to-date machining techniques and so forth to make the drums. And as you said, it was a skip frame, so it skipped 2 fields out of 3, so it was 20 pictures per second, which was fine. It did record off the air, and it was fine for recording live stuff. But if you recorded a movie, well, the movie frame rate was 24 converted to 30 for broadcast. But when you converted that back to 20, you missed a frame 4 times a second, and it could be horrible. But in order to sell or rent pre-recorded movies, they developed a process where in the recording 4 times a second, they would blend 2 frames together so that you wouldn't lose all the information from the movie frames. And it actually worked pretty well, and until somebody pointed out to you that the picture was getting blurry 4 times a second, and then you couldn't not see it. But for a demo, they used a scene from The Graduate where Dustin Hoffman is trying to enter a revolving door, and there are people constantly coming out, and he's hesitating and hesitating. Meanwhile, the door is revolving, and without their technique of blending frames, you could not tell which way that door was turning. It looked like it had St. Vitus dance, but their technique at least got it to the point where you could tell which way the door was rotating. But we had units in the lab, and we one time recorded a golf commercial that was on film and being broadcast to advertise some country club. And here's a guy putting into the hole, and the golf ball goes hop, 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 disappear. You never see it drop in the cup.
You were talking about many of those consoles that were available back then. So remember, I think Sylvania was the one that came out with that console that had the flying spot scanner in it that would show your slides, your 35 millimeter slides. And that was a big deal there. And I don't know that they sold a whole lot of them, but it seems to me one of those was up there at the museum or something.
Yeah.
There
Yes.
was one somewhere.
Yep.
But those are, like that Astro 2000 that they made. They cost $2,000. They only made 2,000 of them. And when you bought one, you'd send this card to RCA, and they'd send you back an engraved plaque, custom built for, fill in your name and all of that, if you remember that. I think one of those turned up not too long ago, but man, those things are monsters, but man, about that same time, videotape like that VHS recorder, that's just when the VH was first introduced. And all that was a big deal back then, and had to be rich to almost buy one of those, but now they're kind of a lot of fun.
Yeah, one thing about that Sylvania slide projectors, that they decided that they would scan it so that there was no black bars above and below the screen, which of course the 35 millimeter slide is not the same aspect ratio as the TV screen, So it lost a fair amount of image content on the left and right sides. And I don't know how users would think about that, whether it would bother them, but I remember it bothered the heck out of me being a 35mm photographer.
Somewhere back in the mid 60s, I think I was at a Sears here in Knoxville, and they had color TVs back in their display. And one of them said color on it on the screen. But what it was a sheet of, paper and everything, and it had the word color cut out of it. And I thought, how are they doing all of that? And what they had was one of those signal generators, for converging sets, color bars in it. They had that connected to it. And then the way you'd read the paper, the way it was cut out, it said color. And I thought, well, isn't that neat and all that? That's kind of a neat way of doing it. But now, that'd be no big deal anymore. But back then, that was a big deal.
I just remember something else about the CartraVision. They did real well on the high-tech aspects, but Motorola got fairly far along in considering putting in the product line. So one of the things they did is they took a unit and ran it through the environmental chamber, and immediately discovered that they had built all the chassis with unplated steel and came out of the environmental chamber covered in rust. Oh, Dave's got a color converter sheet there. What's the brand on that? Dave, what's the brand on that sheet?
I don't think he can hear you. Something else was mentioned a little while ago, talking about early color shows. In June of 1953, the FCC put out a red book there on the early color television and what RCA was doing. It's a thick book. It's about, about an inch and a half thick or so. But anyway, in New York City, when they were demonstrating color TV shows, they would canvass people out on sidewalks and say, hey, would you like to watch a color TV program? Well, they got, quite a few takers there. And then it was a half an hour show. And then they'd give you a survey to fill out, how did you like it and so forth. But anyway, this book is very detailed. They'd show what kind of a show it was, the actors that were in it, how long it lasted, and even the results of the tests or the surveys that they gave out. And I thought that was kind of interesting there, and exploiting, the brand new things of color television in 1953. That's something that's fun to read.
I collect TV guides from different regions because it's fun to read the listings, but I also have the full run of their first year as a national magazine. And there's a June issue and then a late November issue that cover color television. So the June issue has Dinah Shore on the cover, and inside it talks about color TV is ready to just about here, and it shows a bunch of TK41 cameras and people on the set, and they're watching experimental receivers and things. And then the latter one, the one around the end of November, has Jimmy Durante with his famous nose and everything on the cover, and it has even more detailed ones. And then actually on January 1st, you have the very first TV guide that was in a smaller size. They were actually a little taller during 1953. So the 1954 January 1st issue has the listings for the Rose Bowl parade. It's got Bing Crosby on the cover. Helps you recognize it if you find it ever. And description of all the show, what the networks are going to do about color TV. And then the rest of them you just got to find later with actual color listings. You don't really see color listings till probably about mid-summer of 1954, and they're very few. It's like one or two programs a week, and it picks up in 1955. And then you start seeing ads for TV sets in the not in the listings, but if you remember the TV guide format, there was the color pages that were national. Everybody saw those. And then the inside had the white pages. In many cases, they've yellowed from acid, but the white pages were your local listings.
I have a few issues of the TV guide from 1949 to 1951. And the issues I have, I got from, what's his name up here in New York. But anyway, the front page, it's Howdy Doody on it. Now, Howdy Doody was produced in New York. And oh gosh, if I have to think of a name real quick, I can't think of it, but he was here in Knoxville, and he invented HGTV, and he passed away here a few years ago, but he was a good friend of mine. But he had a lot of Howdy Doody stuff in his office and other collector items. He lived next door to the Lone Ranger and stuff like that. So I had him autograph a few copies of it there. But it's just something, an original thing of Howdy Doody, and showing stuff like that. And the guy that was one of the producers of Howdy Doody lived right here in Knoxville, that he came down from New York. I think his wife was from around here, and that's what brought him down here. But he produced Hey Dude and Nickelodeon on there. In fact, in his office, he had a cloth napkin from a restaurant that had a contract written on it. And it was one of the producers for Nickelodeon. And anyway, he realized Ross Bagwell was his name. And he says, you know, we need to write a contract. They were discussing, you know, terms of what if they're going to do. He says, we need to write a contract. All they had was a cloth napkin and sign, you know, something of the CEO or whatever of Nickelodeon. He had that framed and hanging up in his office. And he had one of the Lone Rangers hats up there. The guy that played there was his next door neighbor down in Florida. He had a home down there as well, but he was fun to talk to, and he had many stories to tell, and how he had sort of a fake office trying to, you know, sell when he was doing videos and commercials and stuff. But that's something if Dave Sifka wants me to do something for this program here that you guys have, and I said, if I can figure out how to do that and get somebody to hold a camera or something for me, I got a few items there that are kind of interesting, you know, that, you know, early television and stuff like that. I just love history of television, early stuff. And remember, I was born in Washington, D.C., and I remember watching the TV there back in the mid 50s. And I still remember all the shows. And it's just fun to, you know, find out more about them.
I have some Chicago TV guides. They're called Television Forecast. And I've got issue number 2. I've never been able to find issue number 1. And they actually beat New York to the punch and came out about 2 months earlier. They came out in June of 1948. And anything before that, any television listings before that would just have been in newspapers or the TV stations themselves that would send out their program schedule on once a week to the first television set owners. But the Television Forecast of Chicago, it's really quite neat because the early TV guides for Chicago, New York, and all there, they talk a lot about the tech, about television DXing, about who's receiving a good picture, and then of course the programming as well, and their local stars. And these early Chicago guides, once in a while they'll refer to what's happening in other cities, but all their programs were local because they didn't have a coaxial cable connecting them to New York. But they did have Kukla, Fran, and Ollie. That was one of their shows out of Chicago. And it's just fascinating to look at them. And one of the issues I have talks about putting Channel 7 on the air, and another talks about WMAQ, Channel 5, NBC owned and operated, just coming on the air this next week. And so those are the ones that are, to me, are the most interesting, the history of the stations coming on the air. They photographs of the building and the tower that they're putting up and some of the equipment, and a description of when it's due to hit the air. And
do you know what newspaper that was associated with?
Television Forecast was made by a couple of guys in their garage.
And
it looks like a TV guide. It's a little booklet. And let me go grab an issue and I'll show it to you. You can see what it looks like.
Yeah, I've been watching restored Kukla, Fran, and Ollie kinescopes on YouTube. There's a fund has been set up to restore them, and in certain episodes where the show was mentioned in a TV guide of some kind, they'll manage to bring it into the program and say, "Isn't this nice? We got mentioned in the guidebook."
On the back of it, there's an ad for a television magnifier that you can set in front of your TV. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, for example, there's a photograph of WBKB's mobile unit. Can you see that? It's just a television truck, but yeah. You can pin, by hitting the 3 dots in the right-hand corner of the image, you can always pin somebody and blow this thing up. Because it's not on my desktop, I don't know if I can actually share. Let me see if I can share through my, no, I can't share.
As long as you're talking, I see you and enlarged up my second monitor.
Yeah.
Now, Julian mentioned Howdy Doody and Buffalo Bob. About 1993, Buffalo Bob Smith himself was near me doing an autograph show. And I said, I got to go see this. I go over there with my old girlfriend at the time, Annie. Great Annie. And we go to this table, and there's Buffalo Bob Smith in his full regalia. And he's the nicest guy you ever wanted to meet. And we were the only two talking to him, getting autographs. So we sat down and started talking to him. And Bob gets talking about, his life and, I've got friends up in Nova Scotia. And Annie, jumps up. She says, I'm from Nova Scotia. Who do you know? He said, well, I'm good friends with the owners of Schooner Beer. I'll go up there and hang out with them. Those two, Annie and Bob, got talking, and I just kind of went to a chair in a corner and said, okay, whatever. Annie learns all about American Buffalo Bob TV, and those two were like the best of friends ever. It was just spectacular. And there is that full color version of Bob's final show somewhere out there on the internet. It's available, and it's an interesting production. I'll talk to you later about how they did it. I got an idea. Signing off.
I've got a picture here. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see if I can do this. That's a picture of Ross Bagwell right there with one of those framed Howdy Doody TV guides from like 1951. I think I had him autograph one for me there. But anyway, he had a lot of stuff over. They had a Comic-Con here in Knoxville, and I got to sit down and interview Leave It to Beaver, Jerry Mathers and what was his brother's? Jerry Mathers, and here I go with names again. But I sat down with both of them and it talked to each one of them for about an hour each. And, we talked about things, the cameras in the studios, and Jerry was talking about how he went to school and his dad was over the school system there in California. And so he could slide on a lot of stuff. But sometime, if you ever get a chance, go to YouTube and type in Ross Bagwell. Boy, listening, he can tell you a story, and it's funny, and how he did. And I've got a picture of him with some kind of a large toy on stage there with a TK-41 television camera there in New York. So he was and in Ross's office, he had these showcases in there, and he had some of the cutest little marionettes you've ever seen in your life. And of all the crazy things, those marionettes that he had, and I've got pictures of them, that they were the same thing that made Howdy Doody, the same puppeteer. And I said, well, what kind of a price did you have to pay for something like that? He said that they were like $20,000 each. And this is 1955 money. So he must have been really, he's fabulously wealthy when he was down here. And he explained how he sold his interest, everything for $14 million. And the building now is a bank building down there. But I gave several talks there when he had some studios in there. And but it's just, you get to talk to these people, and you get one on, and it's a lot of fun to learn some more history that goes a little deeper there.
Well, folks, I have to sign off.
Okay.
Hang around, talk all you want. and I'll see you next month.
And
Okay. If I just wanted to say, if you want pre-war television listings, go to the New York Times after April 30th of 1939 and look at the radio sections and pick the Sunday issue where you get a full week. You won't see it in the weekdays, but just go find. I remember looking at it on microfilm. I don't know how you can find the New York Times today, but they might have it in a library still from 39 onwards. So you can see the listings for the TV programs.
You guys were mentioning slide projectors for TV. Do any of you know the company ATV Research? It still exists, although the main guy that started it has passed on, Mel Shadbolt. But he used to make kits for television cameras and other equipment, and one of them was the Televerter, which was a slide projector for television. A blind spot scanner, homemade. Somewhere I have a schematic of that thing. Pretty neat.
I built his television, that the one that they advertised in. Hang on just a second. I got two audios coming in. He had the little booklet that they advertised in Popular Electronics, and
yeah,
built that camera in 1969. Yeah, it must have been around 1969. And a friend of mine told me that if you wrote a letter to the chief engineer of CBS Television in New York City, and you told them that you were a kid and you were involved in doing this stuff, they would send you one of their Vidicons that they pulled after a certain number of hours in a camera. And that was the one unobtainium part. And lo and behold, the unobtainium part shows up in the mail for free. So that was a pretty heady experience.
Excellent stuff. Yeah, it was years before I found a photomultiplier for the slide projector. I never finished it, but I started redrawing the schematic for transistors, and I got that one pretty far along, but it never worked either. But I did contact him about it a few years before he died, and he seemed to be pretty interested. I think he had a further version beyond the one that I have a schematic for that was actually in color. Much more elaborate, though.
I've got I think it's a Popular Mechanics article that is how to build a console rear projection slide viewer that looks like a TV set, but what it has is a rear projection screen, a shelf to hold the slide projector, and a couple of mirrors to fold the optics so the thing doesn't have to be 10 feet deep. So you can do your slideshow in a TV console form, but it's strictly optical.
Well, one thing we built, must have been back in the 1970s, was a TV projector. And those things worked pretty poorly, but we did get an image. It was almost life-size of a football game, and you watched the football game on it. Used a Fresnel lens, of all things, and a sliding box to focus it. Yeah, that was a company named Macrocoma that was also in the back of Popular Science and Popular Mechanics and many other magazines, Popular Electronics.
Yeah, I think ETF has something similar on display. It was a big lens to fit on top of a small TV set and project the image. And I imagine the room had to be completely dark.
In our case, for sure. For a while, you could get the actual projection TV lenses at Hamfest, and I got a few of those for my mechanical television experiments, and those were nice, but they're hard to obtain now.
Well, I better guess I need to sign off here, but I guess I'll see all of you here sometime next month. And hope you guys have a blessed evening there. And I might bring a few of these artifacts that I've got. They're kind of worth looking at, but hope you guys have a blessed evening and good night, folks.
Good night, Julian.
Those projection TV lenses for CRT projectors, had a very low F number, and they were also quite strongly aspheric, so that they were really designed for one focal length only. And when we were working on HDTV, we got a Barco projector to demonstrate a large screen, like maybe 5 or 6 foot diameter picture. That was really pushing the limits of what the Barco could do, because the lenses were really designed for an even bigger picture with a longer throw, and when focused down to that minimum distance, it was starting to lose resolution, because the aspheric elements were just not right for that focus throw.
Good night, everybody. I'll see you in a month.
Yeah, I think I'll say good night too. And see you next month.
Okay, we can call it a day, and we'll see you all next month.